Okay, so we've gotten through all the introductions. I'm going to share with you what I consider 3 pillars of starting your own business. How many here, or some already have their own business? How many of you are contemplating that might be a career path? Just rolls. Okay, raise your hands higher. All right. So we're just going, before I go into the pillars, we'll start with you. What kind of business might you consider starting?
At some time in the future, I'd like to start my own game development studio.
Okay.
Yes, I'm actually working on a business plan right now with New Haven, City of New Haven, to start a home cleaning business, which eventually will culminate into commercial cleaning.
Okay. You're customizing shoes. Is that something you want to grow, or might you go into something else?
Yes, I want to grow.
Okay.
Real estate.
Real estate. Okay. Real estate investing.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I got some interesting information for you.
I don't know. Something to do with dogs, probably, but.
I love dogs. I have 2 grand dogs, and if I didn't have grand dogs, I'd have my own.
The automotive industry.
Automotive industry. And you have a landscaping
It's just like for now.
hobby. It's more of a hobby, but you might someday, yes, no?
Nah.
Nah.
I'm looking into tech.
Okay. Anybody else contemplating this?
Maybe
Yes.
in the e-commerce space.
Okay. Well, there are three pillars of starting your own business. The first is you have to have a passion for what you want to do. Okay, and if you say, hey, I might do this, don't do it. Walk away. If you have a passion for it, you love it, you're committed to it. You read online, you go to webcam. You go to the websites, you research it. If this is something you have a passion for, pursue it. But if it's not a passion, if it's a passing interest, don't do it. Okay, that's not a recipe for success. Okay, you're going into your own business because you want to be successful, right? I mean, everybody wants to be success. If in a given day something positive happens, you gain some inner strength. Okay, if on a daily basis negative things are happening, you're going to start getting depressed. You're going to start questioning your self-worth. So if you have a passion for something, you can overcome some of those naysayers, some of that negative that you're going to have when you're starting your own business. Unless any of you are independently wealthy with a bank account in the millions and you're going to start your own business, I don't think any of us here are in that situation. So you want to have a passion. The next thing relative, and again, this is my perspective, is you want to know your market. You want to know what your competition is. And I'm going to give you some case histories of our family where that wasn't necessarily as well researched as it should have been. So not only your market, but your competition and your demographics. And if you're going to open a store that sells something to children, okay, as opposed to adults or young adults, you want to know that demographic in the area you're going to open your store in is going to serve that market. Now, the world has changed over the past 20 years because of e-commerce. Amazon, my wife has boxes coming to the house every single day. We're on a first name basis with the delivery men. My daughter's even worse than my wife, and she lives across the street. So yes, your demographics is important, but now you have the benefit in the world we live in today of you are dealing with the United States demographics. Because if you're selling a product or a service, typically it'll probably be continental U.S. I don't expect any of you initially would have a market to the international. Clearly that would be great if you did, but at this point, I don't think that is something that you're going to necessarily appeal to. So All right, let's talk about, before we go into the third pillar, I said, we had a case where our family started a business. Okay, so I came here as the president of Spectrum Associates. My dad started the business in 1957. 8 years into the business, his accountant said, "Dan, declare bankruptcy. You're never going to get out of this hole." And my dad was committed. He had a passion. He was an engineer, aerospace engineer. And he said, no, he's going to tough it out. And he went to my grandfather, and my grandfather gave him additional funds at those days. This is back in the 60s. $1,500 tied him over for a number of weeks until things started to generate and become a little more successful. But you're going to have financial challenges. So I'm here for Spectrum, and I'm going to give you a little more perspective on Spectrum later on. But in terms of a new business, my brother started a business when my brother was a graduate of Southern. I was a graduate of Southern. Both my sister-in-laws are graduates of Southern, and my son-in-law is a graduate of Southern. So I have a deep connection to Southern Connecticut. When I came here, we had Saturday classes, and it was called Southern Connecticut State College. Give a little perspective. So my brother decided to start a business. When he graduated from Southern, he had a teaching degree, and he went and taught. And then he liked the idea of being his own master of his own destiny, and he went and worked for Merrill Lynch. And he was at Merrill Lynch for 4 or 5 years and was successful at Merrill Lynch as a broker. Then he had this idea to start his own business. And talk about a far cry. He always in his entire life had a love of basketball. So he started a basketball league. Now, talk about challenges. He didn't have a full understanding of the market. He didn't have a full understanding of the competition, clearly the NBA. But he had a passion that would drive a truck. And he started the USBL. And now, when you start a business, the first is you have to have a passion. Second, you should know your market and your competition. The third is you need capital. You need cash. All right, businesses don't operate on their own. And he proceeded, because he had had time at Merrill Lynch and was familiar with IPOs, initial public offerings. Does everybody understand what IPO is? Anybody not know what an IPO is? Don't be embarrassed if you don't know what an IPO is.
Going public.
It's going public. It's taking an idea. You create what's called the book, the red herring. You go around, you market it, and then you have a time where you can start selling stock. And if you hit a minimum threshold, you are public. You are a public company where people can buy and sell your stock, but you have to meet the minimum, what have you. So my brother proceeded to go public with his company, the United States Basketball League. Has anybody ever heard of the United States Basketball League? Okay. The team in Connecticut played at Southern for 2 seasons. Okay. In 1988, they won the league championship here at Southern Connecticut State. And it was a struggle. It caused tremendous strain in spite of my brother's passion. The league operated for, I think, 12 years, and cash was a constant, even though we went public, was a constant headache in terms of raising funds. And the league was a public league with each franchise independent. So when somebody bought a franchise, their franchise was not part of the public league. The league was. The franchise acted independently. And with all things in life, you have some people who excel and some people who don't. Some of the franchisees halfway through the season wanted to close up shop because they didn't capitalize their franchise well enough. And now that burden fell on the league because there was a schedule. All these teams are playing different teams. Arenas have to be booked. And when a franchisee said, hey, I'm done, I'm out of here, the league had to step in and absorb that franchise and operate that franchise. The USBL had a lot of successes. They had at one point 120 of their alumni playing in the NBA. That is a significant number. 120 alumni playing in the NBA. But the NBA behind the scenes was trying to put obstacles in the way of the United States Basketball League. As it turns out, the United States Basketball League folded, okay? And all that effort, all that time, all that capital went away. And the lesson here is you have to know your market. He had the passion. He initially had the capital, and he had to be able to get more capital, and that was a challenge. But he didn't know the market and didn't realize that the NBA would be antagonistic as opposed to supportive. His goal was, and he met multiple times, 3 or 4 times, with the commissioner of the NBA in hopes of the United States Basketball League being a farm system for the NBA. And the NBA would not tolerate it. They didn't want anything if they didn't control it. And fast forward, what does the NBA do after the USBL folds? They create their own development league, where they could have had a relationship with us at 1/10 the cost. We had a better operation our entire time of being in existence than the development league had for the first 5 years of their existence. So, but the NBA didn't control us, so they were not going to work with us. So here's a case where he had the passion, he sort of had the capital, and the capital would have lasted longer if we hadn't had the obstacle of the NBA. The NBA basically caused the demise of the USBL. So that was my brother's foray into entrepreneurship. Another example, my son has always been a poster fan. How many of you guys like posters? You go to concerts, you get posters. Anybody like posters? Okay. My son has a passion for posters. He decided after he graduated college, he wanted to open a gallery strictly for posters, not paintings, not sculptors, just posters. And he opened a gallery in Milford Center. We're all from Milford, our family. And he had a passion. He wanted to open a gallery. He loved posters. He had knowledge of the marketplace. He knew artists who would create posters for him. And he sort of had a sense of the demographic, but not as well as he should have. And he had capital with the support of funds he raised and support from the family. And the gallery opened to very good reviews on the Milford Green in Milford. How many have ever been to Milford? Okay, it's right on the Milford Green. It was right on the Milford Green across from what is that old stone building on the corner that used to be the Chamber of Commerce. And he would have themes, and he would contact an artist, and he had at least 10 different artists doing custom prints for him, and he'd buy 50 prints, put them up, they were numbered, and for those who collect posters, numbered prints have more value in the future than just a print that you would buy in a Walmart. So these are numbered prints, and sometimes signed by the artist. And the problem my son faced with his gallery was he started to lose that passion. His first 4 months of operation, he knew it wasn't going to break even in the first 4 months. It was going to take some time. He was doing very well. He had 3 different shows. Each show was a theme, and the artist would create the prints. We'd buy the prints and sell the prints. But he started losing some steam because originally a friend of his from college was going to join him in this endeavor. That friend didn't come, and having the burden of this gallery totally on his own became challenging for him. He's a social guy. He didn't, when you open the doors, you want people to come in, and while they came in during a show, you have a show, and then for 3 weeks, those are the same prints that are there until you have your next show. It would peak and go down. It would peak and go down in terms of foot traffic. So he started losing his passion, and as a result of his losing his passion, he didn't follow through on knowing the market and staying with the market. And after 3 years in business, the gallery closed up. So that was another new business that did not succeed. Okay. Mark has told you that I have 2 children and 2 granddaughters. My daughter used to dance. If you're familiar with Milford, there's a dance studio in Milford called Leland Dance Studio. My daughter danced in that studio for, 12, 13 years. So my wife was always having difficulty finding the dance shoes, the dance leotards, and all the associated material that you need to support a young girl doing dance. So she's had this wonderful idea, let's open a dance wear store. Well, I wasn't so enthusiastic about it, but she was very enthusiastic. And for those of you who someday will be married, a marriage is a partnership and you support your partner. Fortunately, we had the resources, we had the capital, she had the passion. She didn't do enough research on that second pillar of the marketplace and the demographic. So we proceed to rent a space. We proceed to buy all the inventory. We have to develop relationships with all the suppliers for all the different kinds of dance shoes, all the different kinds of dance wear. And we proceed to open the store to great fanfare. We got a lot of press. I don't imagine any of you read the newspaper, but I still do. The newspaper did some stories. And the store opened with a lot of hoopla. And we found it a little more challenging than she thought in terms of the marketplace. While there are a number of dance studios, and you'd be surprised at how many dance studios there are and the number of children who dance, a lot of the dance studios, and this isn't something she researched before, buy the attire that the students will wear in their studio. And they specify they can only wear this. So that was a market that we couldn't tap. So she wasn't as diligent in knowing the market and knowing the competition. She had the passion, we had the capital, but that third pillar was very wobbly. So the store opened, and after a number of years of it being operating at a loss, I finally was able to convince her, we should close the doors. And it was emotional. So, when you do something with family, sometimes it's emotional. So she sort of requested that we defer that closing of the store so she could wrap her mind around that. So we delayed the closing of the store for almost 8 months. And then we eventually closed the store, and it was not successful. We lost some money there. But again, she had the passion, we had the capital, but she just didn't know the demographics and the competition. So those are 3 stories of businesses our family has been involved with that have been unsuccessful. Now we'll go back to Spectrum. Spectrum is the engine that I've been a part of since, as said, in 1976. I went there full time right out of Southern. And when I was a senior at Southern, I arranged my schedule because I had all my required courses taken. You're going to get a kick out of this. I arranged my schedule so that I could work 2 days a week and go to school 3 days a week. So I took whatever course would fit in on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Those are the classes I took. I didn't care what they were. I had to get my degree. They were electives. So one of the classes I took, and it was probably the most fun class I had my time at Southern, puppetry. Now, what does puppetry have to do with business? Nothing, but it was fun. And it fit the right time slot. And it was just a lot of fun. So I went to Spectrum right after I graduated from college. Clearly, I was working there on a part-time basis before I graduated. What does Spectrum do? Well, first of all, let's talk about the name. If you're going to start your own business, You want to have a brand. You want to have a logo. You want to have something that separates you from your competition, something that people can relate to when they think of what you do. What is it you make, or what is the service that you provide? You want to have a brand. It makes your conversation all that much easier. Thank you. You're welcome. And in that regard, conversations are important. I'm going to look for a volunteer here. All right. Anyone who's thinking of opening their own business, all right? We're going to start with the young man in the shoes. I get a kick out of that. I think that's a very novel market. Everybody wears shoes, so you got a tremendous market there. Fortunately, I've got the right amount. So, here's the question. All right, you're going out in the marketplace. You're going to, let's say, here's the test case. You're going to go into a store, and you want them to display some of your work. All right, so you make the appointment, and now you go to the store, and what are you going to say? Come on, stand up. You're in the store. You're going to want them to, it's just a quick 30 seconds. What are you going to say in the first 30 seconds that you want them to market your handiwork?
How you doing? I'm Aiden McCray. I have a sneaker customization and restoration business called McCray Footwear Services. I would like to display my custom shoes or my products in your store.
Excellent. Okay. This may sound corny, but it's not. You shake hands, you have a conversation. How many of you, raise your hands, in the last hour and a half before you came into this class, communicated with one of your friends? Don't tell me how, just tell me if you communicated with one of your friends. Raise your hand if you communicated with one of your friends. All right, those who have their hands up, how many of you did it by text? Keep your hands up. How many of you did it by phone, talking? 2. Okay, 2 of you communicated to a friend by phone. You have no comprehension, and I don't mean to diminish your intelligence. It has nothing to do with intelligence. It has to do with wisdom. Wisdom is not learned, it's earned. Wisdom is not learned, it's earned. Communication, when you're in your own business, needs to be done face-to-face. Needs to be done, if you can't be face-to-face, on the phone. You all endured going to school remotely, right? Everybody here went to school remotely? What would, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate that experience?
2.
Okay.
Oh, I liked it. That was me.
You're the outlier. I shouldn't have called on you. Okay.
2.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
I'd be at my daughter's house, so my granddaughters at the time, the older one I think was in 3rd grade. It was horrible. You couldn't keep the kids' attention. The communication is sterile. You're hearing words, you're responding. It is terrible. Business. If you're in business, you want to communicate. I am constantly telling our people in our business, we have 60 employees. I say, if you have a question for somebody else in the building, in your department or wherever, do not email. Pick up the GD phone and talk to them. Talk to them. You are growing up in a generation of technology that makes communication easy. Too easy. It's too easy to text. It's too easy to respond to an email with hitting the respond key and typing your response. That is not a recipe for success in business. It is not. Communication, telephone, if you can't be with them, but if you can be with them face to face, that is critical because you can read the nuance of your response or the question when you're talking to someone. if you're talking to someone, you can see like, oh, they're exasperated, or you can see, are they interested? Are they engaged? You can't see engagement in a text or an email. It's not there. And if you're in your own business, or even if you work for someone, you want to be the best that you can be. And the best that you can be is communicating. Communicating. Eye contact, all right? Facial expressions, body language, all those things impact your performance. All of those things will impact your success or your failure. Okay, these are soft skills that are critical in your own business. When you had a good presence, when you go in and you're selling yourself, be proud of who you are. Even if you're nervous, be proud of who you are. You want to sell yourself, you want to sell your idea. If you have a business plan, you want to sell that business plan. Okay? Business plans are important for a business because if you want to go to a bank for capital, they're going to want a business plan. Business plans are important to give you an idea, direction. But your first week in business, that business plan is going to be more of, well, that was my ideal goal. Reality is now set in, so I got to change this, I got to change that, change this. The business plan gives you a sort of a footprint, sort of a pathway, but it is, do not adhere to it because you're constantly making adjustments. So, back to Spectrum. So I came to Spectrum and graduated Spectrum. When I went to Spectrum, there were 4 people working there. My dad, who was receptionist, and an engineer in the back, and I was making the product that went on the aircraft. So what does Spectrum do? First of all, the logo. The logo, that Spectrum logo, there's a reason for that. A lot of people think we sell paint when they first see the logo. We don't sell paint. We don't do embroidery. We make instruments for the aerospace industry. Everything from the latest jet fighter, the F-35, to the Airbus A320. How many of you have flown a jet aircraft in the past year? Flown like commercial airliner. How many of you have flown a commercial airliner? All right. When you get the announcement on the airliner that if there's a loss of cabin pressure, what happens?
A beep goes on.
Mask drop down.
The mask drop down, right? You want to be able to breathe oxygen. Look what happened to the Alaska Airlines plane. You want to be able to breathe oxygen if you're at 30,000 feet because there's no oxygen up there. Our switch drops the mask for the Airbus A320. We've sold 10,000 of these switches. If you want to buy an Airbus A320 today, the lead time is 10 years. That's their backlog. That's how many aircraft they still have to make for the customers they have. That's the aerospace industry that we live in today. So we make aerospace components. And Spectrum, my dad chose the name Spectrum to delineate we can do anything in the aerospace marketplace, whether it's pressure, whether it's air pressure, hydraulic pressure, pressure indicating, pressure switch, and hydraulic assemblies. And we've diversified into crash-worthy breakaway valves. And you might say, what's a crash-worthy breakaway valve? Anybody hear about the helicopter that crashed at the Grand Canyon? Anybody know what happened? What do you think happened when the helicopter crashed? Blows up, burst into fire. 4 occupants survived the crash. They didn't survive the post-crash fire. They died, they sued the aircraft manufacturer, and they received an award of $150 million because the occupants would have survived if the helicopter had crash-worthy systems in it. We make valves that go in crash-worthy systems. The government and the FAA have mandated now that helicopters have to have crash-worthy systems. Any aircraft manufactured after a certain date must have it, and they're also going to mandate that any aircraft flying are going to have to be retrofitted to have this. So we're the beneficiaries of that. So my dad created the Spectrum logo, and that's been basically with modest changes to that over the past 67 years. That's been our logo, Spectrum. And we currently have, yesterday, 4 of our employees flew out to Colorado for an aviation show, and we have a booth at the show, and the logo is prominently displayed, and they all have business cards, and every person they meet, they will give a business card to, and that is the standard practice in the industry. So If you want to go into a store and have them display your wares, you want to have a business card, and you want to have on that card your logo, and you want to be proud of that logo. And that doesn't mean that you can't change the logo. Our logo has changed over the years, but that's important. You have to sell yourself first. You have to sell your idea for your business second. Okay, you have to do that if you want to be a success. All right, there's a whole story I can tell you about Spectrum and real estate, because our family has had real estate ventures. So we've had a manufacturing business since 1957. For the first 20 years, 25 years, we rented space. But we knew the business was going to be successful. So why do we keep renting? Why are we paying somebody else's mortgage? We went out and bought our first property in Milford. And because we were the tenant to the building, we knew that that income for buying that property was going to be steady. So we started a business, a real estate business. And it was just the family members, pooled our money, we bought a building, and then Spectrum rented that building. And as Spectrum grew, Spectrum vacated that building, the family retained ownership of that building, and today that building is occupied by William Ravis on the Milford Green. It's like an annuity. William Ravis is a great tenant. The rent comes in every month by electronic payment. It's a piece of cake. The mortgage is way paid off. And I tell my family members when we have family meetings, I said, the aerospace business is great. It's gotten us to where we are. But the amount of effort, the amount of requirements, the amount of regulation that our aerospace industry falls under is so much more significant than real estate. The amount of effort we put into Spectrum versus the amount of effort we put into our real estate entities, because we have 3 separate real estate companies, all successful, it's 10-1. And the profits of the real estate are equal to the profits of the aerospace company. So I would strongly recommend, if you can get the capital, real estate's the way to go. Because from our family's history, the dancewear store, the gallery, the United States Basketball League, Spectrum, as successful as it is, and our 3 real estate companies, the real estate companies are a home run. We know the market, we have a passion for it, we have the capital for it, and real estate has been a home run. Now, we've also diversified. Originally, it was just office and manufacturing space. We've also built apartments, and we're renting apartments to test that market, because we weren't all that knowledgeable in the residential rental, but we've become knowledgeable in that. And now my son-in-law has bought 2 condos and is now finished renovating one and is working, and the other one he's already had renovated and renting. So real estate, from my point of view, is a hell of a lot easier than manufacturing. Okay, and a key to that is knowing your market. You know, a lot of you may have heard the statement, what's the key to real estate? Location, location, location. Okay, you get a good location, then you're off to a good start. So, okay, I've been going on and on. The next 15 minutes are yours. Questions about any of the entities we started. Questions about anything. Okay, whether it's Spectrum, whether it's real estate, whatever it is. Question.
Real estate companies, why 3 instead of just growing 1?
Good question. Excellent question. Liability. Why do we have 3 real estate companies and 1? Liability. If somebody falls and breaks their leg, or there's a accident, the building caves in for some reason, we want to insulate the other 2 companies from being sued. And my accountant says, you're not creating another real estate company, are you, Rich? I say, yeah, we are. Yeah, we are. I'm going to save something for the last 5 minutes of class, a new venture we're thinking of.
Then are they like diverse, or like are they split up into like they all have their own niche? Like one does commercial, one does different things?
Yes.
Or? Okay.
One is residential. That's our foray into residential. The other 2 are commercial. And again, it's for risk mitigation.
And which one did you start with?
We started with the building that Spectrum was in, and that was commercial building. Risk mitigation. How many of you are risk takers? Raise your hand. Come on. If you want to be in your own business, you got to be a risk taker. You got to be willing to put all the money on black and hope black comes up. That's just a cute statement. All right, question.
Is there a single major that you would point to that would give you the broadest applicability to being an entrepreneur?
Single major.
Just out of curiosity.
I don't know. My dad used to always say, be a Renaissance man. Know a little bit about everything. Know a little bit about everything. So no matter what circumstances you're in, no matter what group of people you're with, you can talk intelligently. The worst thing you can do is being in a setting where you're being asked some questions and you don't have a foggiest clue what they're talking about. Okay. I'm going to be 70 next Tuesday. The technology revolution that you're all living in, I have support at home from my kids and my wife. At work, I have an IT specialist. If I have a problem with my computer, I don't want to figure it out. Get the IT specialist in here, figure it out, and solve the problem for me. I just want to be able to go in, turn it on, and do what I have to do. So I would say, I don't know what course would give you the most broad understanding of the world, of what market you're going into, but know a little bit about everything. It makes you a more broadened person. Whether it's literature, history, business, of course, business, but when I went to Southern, I got a degree in economics and I minored in accounting. And our family has been very successful because I learned on the job. Clearly, it's better to learn here and then bring that knowledge. When I joined the company, my dad was the engineer. I came out with an understanding of accounting and finance, and he was thrilled because he didn't want to do that. That's not what his passion was. His passion was engineering, designing products. How many have ever heard of the X-15? The X-15, this is a rocket plane, 1957, 6 times the speed of sound. My dad had a switch on that when he first opened his business. He decided a switch that went on that aircraft. It's the aircraft that Neil Armstrong, first man on the moon, trained on before he became a NASA astronaut. So our heritage goes back to the X-15.
I had a model of it when I was a kid.
Black, beautiful, sleek.
Yep, all
It
black.
was launched off a B-52. Literally was dropped off the wing, they ignite the engines, and boom. It's the first aircraft to fly into space. So be knowledgeable in everything. Clearly, most of your focus has to be on that business or that idea that you want to have. It's a challenge. And I am very fortunate. Our business is successful. I have 8 managers in my management team. I was telling Mark, professor, or what should be the proper?
You can call me Dr. Pepper because I run the pep sessions.
Okay, Dr. Pepper. I was telling him that I have tremendous flexibility. I told my wife 2 years ago I was going to retire when I turned 70. And then over the period of being 68 and 69, I decided I still liked what I did. I still like going to Spectrum every day. I'm still healthy, fortunately. And I enjoy what I do. Why retire? So I told my wife, listen, I'm not retiring. She was a little taken aback by that. I said, but I'm going to take a week off a month. So every month I take a week off. We go to Florida, we'll go wherever. We have a place in Florida and we visit there pretty regularly with my family. But in the early years of the USBL, my brother had that business. In light of his passion, it impacted his family and his marriage because it was 24/7. If you want your business, your new business to be successful, it's not 9 to 5. or 7 to 3:30. It's 24/7. When I'm on vacation, even though I'm on vacation a week every month, every one of my management team has my cell number and I respond to email every day. Now, most of the time I don't need to because they handle it well. But if there's something, it's your baby. It's your baby. And a parent doesn't abandon the child. If you start your own business, you're not going to abandon that business unless you make it successful and sell it. It's 24/7. You have to be willing to make that commitment. If you're not willing to make that commitment, get a job with somebody else. Let them worry about it. Okay, I'm going to share, we have about 60 employees at one company. We have another company, CADCOM, that supports Spectrum, that we've got 15 employees there. Every week, come hell or high water, you got to meet that payroll. Every week, our payroll is $110,000. No matter what, if our suppliers, if our customers aren't paying us, that money has to be in the account. Because who wants to go to the bank and say, hey, where's my deposit? Because the days of giving our employees checks is long gone. You don't get checks anymore. You get the electronic deposit in your account. What do you think your employees are going to do on Friday if they come in Friday morning and say, hey, my deposit wasn't in my account on Thursday? How's that going to go over? That is, fortunately, we're at a point now where that's not an issue, but 25 years ago, it was tough to make payroll every week. Clearly, it wasn't $110,000 back then. But these are the kinds of challenges. If you start your own business, you need to pay yourself because you got to live. And if you become successful and you have 1, 2, 10 employees, you got to pay them. They're not working for free. There are times when you're working for free, but they're not working for free. So these are the kinds of things that you learn by doing. You learn by doing. Clearly, you're going to gain a lot of knowledge, a lot of insight from going here to Southern Business School. But at the end of the day, you're going to learn by doing. Because no school, no course, no education can prepare you for all the strange things that happen in the marketplace. The pandemic. Did anybody ever train for a pandemic? We were identified because of our government contracts as important. We had to stay open. During the pandemic, when 95% of the country was closed, we were open every day. The technicians who build our products, I applaud them. I applaud them because while you were younger then, everybody was nervous. Everybody was nervous. Are we going to die? Are we going to get this thing? We're going to die. Because lots of people were dying. Every one of our employees came in every day who had to come in. Those are the people who built the products. Those are the people who inspected the products. Those are the people who shipped the products. Our purchasing department, our engineering department, our sales department, they all worked remotely. But the people who need to come in the building, they came in every day. We applauded them. We gave them bonuses. And Spectrum, we didn't miss a beat. The best thing about it was, my wife was like, you can't go to work, you can't go to work. I said, well, yeah. All right, so I stayed home too because I could sort of work remote, and I was doing conference calls and Zoom meetings on a daily basis, multiple. I was drained. I was drained doing that. After 3 weeks, I said to her, I can't take this anymore. I got to go into the office. I brought a lot of stuff home, but I said, I won't go mix with other employees. I'll just go into my office. And the greatest thing about that, after 3 weeks of being home, I get on the highway, there's nobody on the road.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody. I mean, I live in Orange, work in Milford. I would go from Orange to Milford, there would not be another car on the highway. That was like heaven. And we got through it. So when you go into business, you don't know what's going to be around the corner. You don't know what's going to happen. No one predicted a pandemic. No one's ever trained for a pandemic. We have contingency plans in place if that should have happened again, how we would address it. We did all kinds of things in our building. We made the doors touchless to get in and out of the building. You just swipe the card. That wasn't something we had before. The faucets in the bathrooms, we made touchless. We didn't have that before. We changed our HVAC systems, improved them and upgraded them. We probably spent $150,000 making improvements to our facilities to keep our employees safe. Not one of our employees transmitted COVID to another employee. Some of our employees got COVID. They didn't get it from working at Spectrum. So again, that may be part of the course curriculum today. What do you do if you're in business and there's a pandemic and everything's shut down? But it wasn't 5 years ago. And when you're in the business world and you're running a business, you still want to get your product. You still want to offer your service. You want to keep the doors open because what do you want to do? You want to eat. Yeah, strange. We all want to eat. We all want to have a roof over our heads. But if you're not working, a lot of businesses went out of business. So my time is nearly up. Last little thing. How many of you heard of urban air mobility? Nobody, right? Urban air mobility. This is a new venture we're probably going to be getting into. These are vehicles, electric. 99% of them are electric. They are expecting there'll be 200,000 of them flying in the United States within the next 20 years. They're for short commutes. They'll travel between 2,000 and 5,000 feet. They will be range of distance anywhere from 50 miles to 100 miles. And this is the new generation of aircraft coming to the United States. In Paris this year, what's happening in Paris this year?
Air show?
Olympics. Say that with enthusiasm. Who said Olympics? Olympics. In Germany, there's a manufacturer of these urban air mobility vehicles, eVTOLs, they call them, and they're going to be shuttling people at the Paris Olympics in these. China is the lead in this right now. EHang in China already has these vehicles flying around in China. In the United States, we have Joby, which is the lead. We have Archer, and they have great commercial. If you go to the website, it shows Archer. I think he's a rap or whatever. He's sort of like a Renaissance man. They show him in the video, the promotional video. Beta in Vermont, and they're gearing up to make 2,000 of these a year starting next year. And we are going to look to become part of the infrastructure. You have a car, you need gas, or you need to charge it. Well, these things need to be charged every 50 to 75 miles. We're looking to create an infrastructure of charging vertiports in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. So that's a new venture that we're just getting involved with. There was a press release that was released yesterday about that. So Spectrum is taking going in a new place. We're teaming up with a company in Wisconsin. So the world is changing before your eyes.
One more question. What do you think the most lucrative part of that new aircraft business is going to be like in terms of like, what do you think will blow up the most, like in terms of money?
I would say that the greatest opportunity for financial return in this marketplace will be, I'm hopeful, in landing rights and charging for these vehicles. It's going to open up the world. How many of you ever go up to Vermont? Okay. It's a long drive up 91, right? Well, these things are going to travel 220 miles an hour. So you're doing 65, 75, and it's a 2-hour drive. Imagine you're going 220 miles. It opens up markets that heretofore have been difficult. So if you want to go up to Brattleboro, if you want to go up to Bangor, Maine, it makes it an easier commute. And they will be priced. Clearly, it'll be more expensive than riding a car, but it's not going to be the cost of riding in a helicopter. Helicopter transportation is expensive because they're going to be so prolific, and there's going to be cutthroat back and forth in terms of price wars on this. This is a technology that's coming, and within 10 years, they're going to be ubiquitous. They're going to be all over the place, and you're going to be the beneficiaries of that. How many of you have ridden in a car that is semi-self-driving? See, you're fortunate. You're at an age where you're more willing to accept that. Not me. I'm not getting in a car unless I'm driving it or someone I'm comfortable with driving. Just like being on a plane. There are planes now that can fly remotely. When I say remotely, they're piloted from the ground. If there's not a pilot in the front of the plane that I get on, I'm not getting on it. Because if he doesn't have skin in the game, I'm not getting on the plane. Your generation might be more willing to accept that, not mine. I've really enjoyed talking to you. I've talked too much. I haven't had a lot of interaction. I hope you found this interesting. If at some point in your life you do start your own business, I hope you got one pearl from this that helps that. If it doesn't, then I've been a failure, and I don't like being a failure. I've greatly enjoyed getting to know you and meet you, and thank you for your attention and your professionalism. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.